All right, today we're jumping into a pretty complex set of documents that allege there's a new, systemic kind of conflict happening right under our noses. The source material frames this whole thing as a wake-up call, an attempt to map out what it calls a hostile campaign, one that isn't aimed at a nation's army, but at its very systems of operation.
So let's get right to the heart of it. The whole analysis kicks off with this really powerful statement. It says the oikos, that's a Greek word for the household, or basically the citizenry, is the central target. So we're not talking about soldiers on a battlefield here. According to this analysis, the battlefield, well, it's us. It's society itself.
Everything in these documents really hinges on this one core concept they call eighth-generation warfare. So to really get what they're laying down, we have to start by breaking down what on earth that even means. It really sets the stage for everything that follows.
Okay, and this is absolutely crucial to understand. The source material isn't talking about traditional warfare. You can forget tanks and jets. This is described as hostile systems management and, get this, systemic co-option. The goal isn't to blow things up, it's to gain influence and ultimately administrative control from the inside. So what's the end game here? The documents use the word telos, which is just a term for the ultimate purpose or goal. And that goal is to gain administrative control over these four key sectors. The thinking is if you can steer a nation's finance, its media, its government, and its technology, well, you can basically steer the entire country without ever firing a single bullet. So, the big question, right? Where do they claim all this is coming from? Well, the analysis points a finger at a very specific place. This intersection of elite military intelligence and private technology. And they really zero in on one group in particular, Israel's elite Unit 8200. It's described as their version of the NSA, but the documents frame it as more than just an intelligence agency. They call it a de facto talent incubator, basically a pipeline that's churning out these highly trained tech experts who then go on to found and lead major global tech companies. And this table here really shows you what they're talking about. They're pointing to what they see as a direct pipeline. You have huge cybersecurity firms like Palo Alto Networks and Check Point founded by alumni. Wiz, a massive cybersecurity unicorn, was founded entirely by a team of these veterans. And then you have Team 8, a venture capital firm that was co-founded by the guy who used to run the whole unit. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The documents point to this potential Google acquisition of Wiz as a huge moment. One analysis is even quoted as calling it the largest transfer of Israeli intelligence operatives into big tech in history. Just think about that. Google wouldn't just be buying software, they'd be bringing an entire team in-house whose skill set in data and surveillance was forged inside one of the most advanced intelligence agencies on the planet. Okay, so according to the analysis, you have this tech intelligence engine. What does it do? They claim it provides both the money and the playbook for what they call a migration pipeline. So how is this all supposed to work? Let's follow the chain. The source material maps out this whole 5-stage continuum. It starts with the tech ecosystem, which provides the capital and the mindset. That money then flows through certain financial channels to NGOs on the ground. Those NGOs then facilitate movement, which the analysis claims leads to security vulnerabilities. And it all ends with legal action inside the US to prevent deportation. All right, let's talk about the money, because this part is pretty wild. The documents really focus on something called donor-advised funds, or DAFs. They're described as a financial black hole, and here's why. A donor can give money to a DAF, and then the DAF makes the grant to an NGO. This process makes it incredibly difficult to trace the money back to the original donor, which, they argue, provides some serious operational deniability. But it's not all hidden in the shadows. The analysis also points to some very direct, very public funding trails. You've got Palo Alto Networks, remember, founded by a Unit 8200 alum, supporting HIAS. You have wealth from Microsoft's former CEO funding Catholic charities. And you have Google's own charity arm, Google.org, directly funding an AI lab for immigrant justice. So what about the NGOs on the ground? The documents argue that they aren't just rogue actors. They claim it's all part of an official US-backed policy called controlled flow. And the alleged goal isn't to stop migration, but to manage it, and critically, to expand the capacity and speed of it. It's like they're treating it less like a crisis and more like an Amazon supply chain that needs to be optimized. From there, the analysis really zooms in on what it calls the central integrator of this whole operation, the main hub. And where does it point? The board of directors at Microsoft.
It even refers to it as a corporate hydra, that mythical beast with many interconnected heads. So let's look at the people. They single out figures like Reid Hoffman. He's on Microsoft's board, sure, but he also co-founded FWD.US, a huge immigration lobbying group, and he was a founding board member of PayPal. The analysis basically says, look, here's one person connecting the Microsoft board to both political lobbying for immigration and the financial tools used for deplatforming. Next up, they point to Penny Pritzker, also on Microsoft's board. And with her, the source is drawing a direct line from that boardroom straight to the highest levels of U.S. government and global policymaking. We're talking former Secretary of Commerce, board member at the Council on Foreign Relations, the Aspen Institute. It's a long and influential list. And this is where they make a really subtle but important point. It's not just about official job titles. It's about what they call informal interlocks. For example, you have Charles Scharf. He's on Microsoft's board, and he's also the CEO of Wells Fargo. Well, he also happens to sit on the corporate fund board of the Kennedy Center, right alongside Penny Pritzker. The claim is that these shared seats create a kind of social and professional glue between the top players in tech, finance, and politics. Okay, so let's pull all of these different threads together. We've talked about tech, intelligence, finance, NGOs, and corporate boards. What's the final overarching picture this analysis is trying to paint? What does it all supposedly add up to? Well, this is where they totally flip the script on the whole border debate. According to this analysis, the goal isn't just to erase borders and have chaos. They claim it's something much more calculated. The idea is to reframe the border as a logistical bottleneck, a problem that can be optimized, scaled, and accelerated, just like a tech startup would solve an engineering problem. And here it is, the alleged endgame. The whole crisis at the physical border, they claim it's just the justification for what comes next, replacing physical borders with a new, global, biometric, digital border. And who would control this new system? Well, according to the source, it would be the very same public-private partnership that they claim engineered the problem in the first place. So we've just walked through the claims laid out in these documents. It's a complex web, connecting a tech intelligence incubator to the boardrooms of big tech, to financial channels and NGOs on the ground. The analysis paints a pretty staggering picture of a coordinated system, and at the end of the day, it leaves us with one really provocative question to think about.